Hi, I'm Derek Fields. I'm the Atlassian Practice Manager for RightStar Systems. RightStar is a platinum partner of Atlassian, specializing in the implementation of Atlassian software, with a specific focus around all of the various DevOps capabilities that Atlassian provides. And what I'd like to speak with you about today and over the next set of videos is how we approach DevOps and how Atlassian can help your organization to become a more mature DevOps organization. In order to do that, we're going to start by looking at what DevOps actually is so we can set some ground rules and some understanding for what we mean when we talk about DevOps. We're going to talk about three pillars of DevOps. We're going to talk about people, processes, and tools. And of course, the tools are the Atlassian tools, but even more important is that we want to talk about the people that are involved in making DevOps work and the processes that are essential in order for you to be a mature DevOps organization. So let's lay out what do we mean. When we talk about people, we really mean we're talking about culture. We're talking about the way people interact with each other, the way they think about their jobs, their organization, and the tasks that they have to deliver the software to either their internal organization or to their customers. So we want a culture that is focused on DevOps, on a DevOps way of thinking, and we're going to talk more about that as we go through these videos. In addition, we're going to talk about processes and what kind of processes you need in order to make DevOps successful in your organization. Having standardized processes that help you to enable the culture of DevOps is critically important to your success. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the tools. We're going to talk specifically about how Atlassian tools can enable your organization to be a mature DevOps organization, to be able to build out software that is quick and fast to deploy, that is secure and has high quality, that reduces your cost to operate and can delight your customers. So what I'm going to take you through now are some slides that show how DevOps cycle works. What you see here is a cycle that is planning, building, continuous integration, deployment, operations, and then of course continuous feedback, which leads us back into planning. Let's talk our way through what DevOps, how this works, and how the Atlassian tools feed in to this. The first thing we have is planning. In planning, we want to understand what our target is, what we're trying to achieve, and how we're going to achieve it. What does success look like? We need to make sure that we understand what it is we're trying to deliver at the end of the process, and that's the key to planning. Planning should be your most time-intensive part of your DevOps cycle. When you're a mature organization, you're going to spend most of your time planning because everything else is going to follow quickly, smoothly from your plan. Now, the Atlassian tools that enable planning, and we're going to look at these, are Confluence and Jira. So Confluence and Jira are going to be the subject of the first things that we look at, and then we're going to move on to building. And building, of course, is where your software developers, your testers, your quality engineers, your security engineers are all involved in making sure that the code, the software you're going to deliver, meets the expectations that you've set up in the planning. And there we're going to use Jira and Bitbucket. We'll talk more about what those actual tools mean and what they do in future videos. Once we've built our software, we want to launch it quickly into our test and our deployment environments. And to do that, we use continuous integration, and that's supported by Bitbucket and by Bamboo. Those two tools we'll look at in depth as we go through the videos. And then finally, to deploy this, we want to deploy it with as much automation as possible, and there we're using Bamboo. So now we have planned our software, we've built it, we have tested it, and we're deploying it, and now we are operating it. And we're not going to talk so much about the operations, but it's worthwhile completing the cycle to talk about the Atlassian tools, the status page and Ops Genie, which give you real-time visualization into what's going on with your software, with your deployment environment. and Confluence and Jira, which is how you're going to be able to record the problems that inevitably arise in a deployed environment and be able to address them quickly to meet your customer expectations. And then finally, we have continuous feedback. And in continuous feedback, again, we're going to use Confluence and Jira in order to capture all of the information that's going to allow us to continuously improve our DevOps environment. And so that brings us back to the planning, which is how we start the cycle again. Now, what we're interested in when we talk about DevOps is how quickly can we move through this cycle. We call this the cycle time or the lead time, and how quickly can we go from planning to building to the continuous integration, deployment operations, and then getting our feedback from our customers and from our users about how our software is performing. And if we've missed the mark, then we have an opportunity to deploy a new set of software quickly, efficiently, with high quality and attention to security. So all of this really gets built into our DevOps. So now let's get started and talk specifically about the planning section. So to talk about planning, we're going to get out of PowerPoint. And now what I want to show you is Confluence. And Confluence is going to give us an idea of how we do planning and show you what the tool does to support the planning exercise. Now I've got a particular set of requirements that I've built for the purpose of these set of videos. And we're going to trace our way through building out an employee report. And in this particular case, I'm going to show you the requirements that we've developed in order to, that's going to be the basis for what we develop. So let's take a look at these. This is a Confluence page. This is built using a standard out-of-the-box Confluence template for requirements. And so this is going to allow me, you'll see right here, to connect it to a Jira epic. And we'll talk more about that later on. We're going to look specifically at Confluence, but keep in mind that this is connected to Jira as well. I've got a document owner. This is the person, John Analyst, who has been the person who actually created this document. And John went in and indicated what the goals are of this particular set of requirements. John indicated the background and strategic fit, what the assumptions are behind these requirements, and then finally the specific requirements or stories that are going to be part of this employee report epic. So I've developed 4 different requirements, and we're going to focus on developing and implementing just one of them, but I do want to give you an idea of how this works. So in the requirements section, we've developed an executive report, a manager report, an end user report, and a team member report. And as you can see, we have a user story written in standard user story fashion. As an executive, I need to see a summary report of all employees, and I could have added so that and provide the value statement. I've indicated that it's a must-have and some notes about what it will be able to do. Next, we've included our test data. This is an indication of what we expect a successful test to come back and look like. At least this is the basis of the test data. You'll see we've got a group, a name, a salary, and an age. And then we're going to do this through a REST API. So in order to do this, we've developed several different REST APIs that we intend to implement in order to make all of this work. Now, as we were working through this, we have a question that has come up, but let's go back and look a little bit about what's happened on this particular document. As you can see, in Confluence, we have shared all of the different questions. So Sally Developer, as well as Trisha Dev, have participated in discussing these requirements. Sally, for instance, has raised the issue that we're going to use Python to implement these REST APIs. That seems to be something new. John has been able to respond to her, and Sally has indicated that this is a fine requirement and she can work within it. Then Sally goes ahead and adds a comment to indicate that she's fine with the requirements, and Trisha Dev also indicates that she's fine with the requirements. And so as you can see, we have a nice threaded conversation, and we have the ability to track all this right within the same page. So now we have traceability for what's happened through our Confluence and our requirements gathering session. Now, I do want to show you one more thing about this before we get into the details, and that is that Confluence provides you with a page history. And so we can see all of the different versions and who has done what with different versions. And of course, we can compare these. And this is very useful when we're talking about traceability because we want to know what's happened in the meantime. For instance, we can see that Tricia had raised an issue that the group had been missing, and John, in the most recent version, has added that group to the table. So this is just an indication of how our requirements have grown over time. In addition, you'll notice that Tricia actually has here an inline comment. And again, this is just for collaboration. So let's take a step back and talk about the key issues that we're trying to use Confluence to address. One is transparency. We want everyone who's involved to know what the requirements are and to have an opportunity to participate in developing, surfacing issues and understanding what the requirements and what the expectations are. We want to make sure that we're taking ownership and we are empowering people to make decisions. And so in this case, we've got Sally, the developer, and Tricia, dev, participating, raising questions. John has been able to make appropriate statements about it, and they have approved this, all without the need necessarily to go to a higher level requirements or to get some other approval. And this is key in DevOps. When we talk about people and processes, our culture and our process, we want to make sure that the people who are responsible are empowered to make decisions. And so I would suggest that you ask yourself the question, are my people empowered, or am I constraining them to make decisions that affect their ability to deliver on their tasks? An important question for you to ask as you're thinking about the planning part of DevOps. So let's, as we conclude all of this, let's just take one more look at what we've got here. And I want to conclude this by showing the integration. Now that we've got our requirements developed, what are we going to do with them? And we'll look at what we do with them specifically in the next video, but right now I want to show you the integration that we've got. I'm going to highlight just a section. As you can see, I haven't even highlighted the entire words, but right now it gives me the ability to comment, and that's what I had done down here, or to create JIRA issues from this. So we're going to go ahead and load this up, and you'll see that it allows me to take this table, create multiple issues. I'm going to select the project I'm working in. In this case, is my DevOps implementation. These are all stories. I'm going to use the title as the summary. The user story is the description. I'm going to create these 4 issues, and I'm going to link it. And by doing that, what's going to happen is Confluence is now talking to JIRA. It is creating those 4 issues, and as you can see, those issues are now linked directly in Confluence. And so I have traceability. And this is key for our DevOps maturity. I have traceability back to the 4 stories that we're going to implement in order to satisfy these requirements. And so now what we've done is we talked about the planning phase. We have determined what it is we need to do. We have determined the specific requirements. We have gone ahead and put it into JIRA. And in the next video, what we're going to talk about then is to continue the planning phase and talk more about the idea of management of a plan. Having developed what the plan is, how do we manage that? And we're going to see that as we look at JIRA. So with that, I'm going to leave you and ask you to think about, are your people ready to work in a DevOps environment? Do they have the openness, the trust, the communication skills to be able to work independently and collaboratively in order to develop their plans? Do your processes empower people to be able to do what they need to do, allowing them to experiment and to make the decisions that need to be made? And do you have the tools that you need in order to enable all of this? And with that, I want to thank you very much for watching this video.